I'll just let you get started.
Great. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank the entire commission, especially Brian Hofer and Deirdre Mulligan, for extending the invitation for me to be with you today. I'm Nuala O'Connor. I'm the president and CEO of the Center for Democracy and Technology, a nonpartisan, nonprofit advocacy organization based in Washington, D.C., dedicated to advancing individual liberty in the digital world. Prior to serving at CDT, I also served as Chief Privacy Officer at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. Department of Commerce, as well as the Global Privacy Leader at General Electric and Vice President of Customer Trust at Amazon.com. Based on all of these experiences, I believe that privacy is one of the most compelling challenges that institutions will be facing in the years and decades ahead. It's increasingly one of the values that citizens will be scrutinizing institutions in the government and government services and actions, particularly the deployment of new information gathering technologies. The boundary between individuals and state, particularly the increasing intrusion into the private lives of citizens by the government through data and internet-enabled technologies, particularly surveillance technologies, has been an area of focus for CDT since its founding in 1994 at the dawn of the commercial internet. But first, let's discuss why this matters. Why do we care if the surveillance is conducted obviously in the open and in the public square, as opposed to the opaque or clandestine surveillance of communications in our homes and in our communications, which well deserve heightened protections? This matters because of what our public square means to our democracy. It is the place where we meet, where we gather, where we speak, where we protest. And so closely associated with the freedoms of association and speech, the protection of our public square is essential to our democracy. Ubiquitous surveillance has been shown to have a chilling effect on speech and on thought and on association. A recent study by the Pew Center on Internet Life showed that after the Snowden revelations, over 60% of adult Americans modified their online search behavior, the terms, or did not engage in searches at all, based solely on the implication or the assumption that the search might be monitored or discovered. One can only extrapolate that actual knowledge or observed surveillance equipment could have even further chilling effect on speech and behavior. That chilling effect leads to a loss of ideas, of dialogue, of community, and a great loss, a profound loss to our democracy. The proliferation of commonly available surveillance technologies is simply the most recent iteration in the dialogue on governmental authority and individual privacy. And it serves all of us, whether we are concerned about effective operation of government or about zealously guarding our civil liberties of all individuals, to ensure that new technologies are deployed mindfully, taking into account all of these equities. This proposal achieves much of the goal of operationalizing and formalizing privacy values by building it not only into policy but also into process. While I would recommend 2 further additional steps to complete a comprehensive privacy program, one that includes policy, process, people, and technology, and those are, first, enhancing internal institutional structures, and second, where possible, reinforcing privacy values in the technology itself by articulating that as a requirement in the acquisition process. But first, let me say that the Commission and the City are to be commended for these actions taken to consider the privacy impact of new and emerging surveillance technologies and to implement appropriate processes to ensure these values are taken into account in the acquisition and deployment of new intrusion technologies. In fact, I would take a step back further and observe that while I believe all of these analyses and processes are merited and, in fact, required in the digital age in the use of information gathering technologies by government actors, Oakland and other California municipalities are still in the vanguard of this dialogue, as California so often is, and these ordinances will set a benchmark for other state and local bodies to follow, and we thank you for that. You are ahead of most of your peers in this country, and you are paving the way for them.